Hello, everyone. Today I have Manjiri Prabhu. She has recently written a book called The Oxford Mystery, and I'm so excited to speak to her about that book and, in general, her writing journey so far. We are catching up after a long, long time, so please excuse us the rant in between. But welcome, Manjiri. So nice to see you. And tell us
Thank you,
more
Priyanka.
about your latest book. You spent quite some time in London, in Oxford, I believe, researching about that book. Your passion for travel and writing mystery comes together in this book and many more destination thrillers that you wrote. So tell us about your latest book. I'm very curious to see it and also.
Uh, yeah, so I don't know if you can. One second. I don't know if it's a mirror image or whatever. Yeah, it is. Sorry,
Yeah, that's
but you can't see
no,
it.
it
Okay,
looks good.
fine. That's all right. So anyway, the latest book is called The Grand Oxford Mystery, and it's my fifth destination thriller, but 23rd book on the whole. So way back in 2017, I started a series called Destination Thrillers. It started with this idea in my head that I love to travel a lot and I love to write. So I said, how can I combine the two? And also I kept feeling that the backgrounds of any story, the locales, are always kind of taken for granted. A story happens on a certain locale, but actually that locale itself has so much more to offer than just being a backdrop. And this got me thinking, and I felt that there's a saying, usually someone once said that, I'd like you to see, I'd like to see the world twice, once through my eyes, and the second time through yours. And I want to use the Destination Thriller series for the reader so that they can see the world twice, once through their eyes and the second time through mine. So actually, what I'm doing is I'm trying to take the reader across the world, some parts of the world, of course, I can't cover the whole world, but certain interesting parts of the world where there are certain things that you don't necessarily know about. I mean, you know Europe, but there are certain elements of culture and history that you don't really know about. And these are isolated incidents in their history, or isolated figures, or isolated bits of culture, which I try to bring to the forefront through the thrillers. So the destination becomes a character, and I like to take the story forward through the character. So if you remove the destination, there is no destination, there is no thriller. Okay, because it's all about the destination. So since I started this thinking about this, I said, the first book was in Salzburg, the second one in Sweden, the third one in Germany, the fourth one in Portugal. And then while I was launching my Legend of the Snow Queen, which was the German book, in at the Oxford Literary Festival in Oxford. And I was between books and I was thinking which should be my next destination. And I always believe that the destinations call out to me. It's not like, okay, I haven't been to this part of the world, so let me go there. It's not that way. It's some message from the universe, from a reader, from a friend, from an article I've read, something kind of catches my eye, or I get a message and I'm instantly drawn to that destination in a very weird kind of way, a very deep connection kind of a way. And so I wait for these things, because it's only when I have this connection that I know I can write a destination thriller. It's not an easy book to write, because as an Indian author, you go to another foreign locale and you try to base a book there like an insider. You really need to work hard for it. So I wait for a connection. And so while I was at the literary festival, and I stepped into Oxford, it was my first trip to Oxford, and I felt this, the ancient buildings, this entire aura of science and history and mysticism, and all of it was there, and it was so beautiful. I can't tell you, it comes together in such a fantastic manner, and the energy of that place. And I instantly thought, this is where I want to base my next book. But having said that, I had to come back in June to research, because I'd only been there for a lit fest. So in June I went back to Oxford and I did whatever research I could in the 8-10 days I was there, and then I came back and wrote this book. So that's how the the Grand Oxford Mystery happened, and I'm so glad it did.
Great, great. And in this book, like when I was reading through it, there you mentioned there is a book within a book because the clues are kind of unfolding while someone is reading that book. So tell us a little more about that aspect where you talk about more about that unfolding of the mystery through that book.
Yeah, so the story in brief is that there is this tourist guide called Emma, who is enlisted by an old gentleman. He's in his 80s, called Paul, who claims to be a writer, and he enlists her help to write a perfect mystery novella. Okay, and that novella is called the Grand Oxford Mystery. Okay, so he enlists her aid, and she writes the first chapter for him. But when she goes back to write the next pages, he has already hung himself, so he commits suicide. And then that same chapter appears at her uncle's office, where he's going to hold a huge event, and that chapter says, there's a note with that chapter which says, find the remaining 8 chapters if you want to prevent a catastrophe from happening at your event the next day. And so it all, in Emma's mind, it all comes up together, wondering why this old gentleman, do this. Why did he get the first chapter written from her if he's already written the 7, 8 chapters? Why did he send it to her uncle? What relation did he have with the uncle? What was going on behind it? And that's when Ray steps in to find the 8 chapters, in the next. But the story unfolds through this Paul's novella, The Grand Oxford Mystery. And with each chapter that unfolds, you can see a separate story happening within a story. So it's actually a novel which Paul calls the perfect mystery novel, which is unfolding, and it is up to Ray, who's getting sucked into this fiction, which is sometimes also, should I say, drifting into reality, or popping into reality in and out. So where the worlds of fiction and reality merge, that Ray has to decipher, what is real, what is fake, who is Paul, why did he write this book, are the characters in Paul's book real, so, or is it just a writer who's full of himself, a pompous writer who believes he's written the best book possible? Is it his imagination that he is, trying to prove that he can write the perfect novel or whatever? So it's a kind of I've mentioned this in the book also. It's a paracosm. Is it Paul's paracosm? Paracosm is where a writer's imagination is so strong it overtakes his reality. So it is it his world, or is it his paracosm, which is now out in the real and present world to create issues? Or is there really a link? Were his characters real, and are they really in reality playing a role right now in the present day? So it's a whole world within a world within a world within a world, while Ray tries to solve this mystery. So that's it. So it's a novel within a inception, as they call it.
Absolutely. Now, when you were saying that authors sometimes really get lost in their world, so
Yeah.
I was always wondering, like even when I was crafting my story, it is always this constant battle between logic and intuition.
Mm.
As
Mm.
writers, when we start writing, we just sometimes the words just flow, and logic kind of defies a lot of our imagination, a lot of our.
Yeah.
And then when you either read it after some time, or you ask someone else to read, and then you realize, okay, by the way, I just forgot this thing, or I just got carried away. So I'm sure after writing so many books, you must have mastered that craft. And for mystery writing, definitely needs a lot of logic
Yeah.
and a lot of
Yeah.
puzzle pieces to be
Yeah. Yeah.
connected. So tell us, how do you do it? Give an example of what's your process like.
So, obviously, yes, of course, that there is no substitute to logic. Even if you're writing fantasy, or any kind of fiction, logic comes first. You have logic as a central to your plot line, because without logic, everything becomes absurd. I mean, you start questioning yourself. How is this even possible? How can it happen? So you have to have a logical reason for every word that you write, or action that takes place, or every character that you build. So logic, yes. Intuition on the other side. So like you said, for mystery, logic is prime. There is no option. And the way I do it is that for any mystery novel, I need to know who did it, who done it, you know and then I work backwards from there. Like, for example, if I know X person has committed a crime in the Grand Oxford Mystery, then I work backwards from there to actually lay out my tracks, and lay my plan, lay my structure, to lead the reader to the ultimate goal and end, which is the grand finale. So that is the logical progression of my novel in structure form, but also in plot form. I have to make sure that the story progresses logically, the resolution is logical and not absurd. Of course, being a larger than life mystery, it's not a cozy mystery, or something that happens in a closed room. It's a larger than life thing. It happens in Oxford. It's an international crime. It's in so everything. So you have to give these kind of stories some larger benefits of doubt. You can't say, hey, how did he go from here to Oxford to solve the mystery? I mean, he has the money. He has, so I don't need to answer these little bit nitty-gritties of the doubts that come into your mind. You have to take certain things for granted for a larger than life landscape, because it's huge. So but keeping having said that, you need to have logic for everything. On the other hand, your instinct and your intuition, like you said, play a huge role also while writing any kind of novel, because sometimes when you're writing, you know what works and what doesn't work. I mean, many writers are always in self doubt. They always feel, should I, like you said just now, you've written a lot, and then you don't know how you wrote all that, and should this be included in art or not. But for me, specifically for me, I don't have those kind of doubts. So I, maybe like with practice, like you said, or maybe I know probably in my head what works as a novel. I don't know whether it's going to work with the reader. Of course, that's something, a whole different ball game. But me as a writer, doing the role of being used as a channel to create something and to produce something, I once I start get into the creative process, and I'm planning and plotting and think, I do have to use instinct and intuition to try out certain things. I'll give you an example. I was writing Voice of the Runes, okay, which takes place in Sweden, and my detective Ray Parker is there in all these destination thrillers. And I started writing that book takes place in Sweden, in and it has a lot. I have learned the rune language for it, and it's all about the gravestones with the rune inscriptions and the Viking period and stuff like that. So I started writing the book from Ray's viewpoint. I wrote 3 chapters, and then I stopped because I just felt that something was not right. My intuition was screaming at me and telling me this is not the path for this novel. You know, After 3 chapters, I stopped and I said, no, something's wrong. I sat down, I read the chapters and read chapters, and I said, no, this novel can't take place from Ray's viewpoint. It has to take place from another character's viewpoint, who's also very important, and it was Maddie, the lady who helps him solve the mystery. So then the whole novel takes place as a first person narration of Maddie in Voice of the Runes. And then when I started writing it, I felt at ease, and then the novel flowed. So sometimes if you're stuck in a novel in the first few chapters, you know by instinct that something's not right. And that is a writer's instinct, and you have to trust it. You can't always allow outside sources and outside forces to tell you whether you're right or wrong. Sometimes you and the writer in you does know how, because you all said and done, you are a channel and nothing else. And some muse is working through you. So if that muse is giving you messages while you're writing, that this isn't, I'm not talking about the wording, the language, the editing, I'm not talking about all of that. I'm talking about you as a writer and your first draft. There has to be a faith and trust in what you're doing. And I think that is where my intuition and my instinct work very strongly. So yeah, I trust that.
Great. I wanted to also ask you about different genres. Like, how do you experiment with different genres? Have you tried writing other genres? And why you are so fascinated towards mystery? Because I feel that it's one of the toughest genres to write, because
Yeah.
here, like we just talked a lot about this whole balance between intuition and
Yeah.
logic. In your case, there's also a lot of research. So, how do you look at other genres such as, let's say, romance or fantasy? Have you tried writing in them, and what are your views?
Yeah, absolutely. Like you very rightly said, I think mystery writing is one of the toughest genres to write. Mostly because you need to know your craft very well to play around with the reader's mind. I mean, it's like a mind game. You're playing with the reader constantly, and you need to know, more or less, you need to know what you're writing. So that's why the craft. But so I started writing mystery because of Inner Blyton at a very young age, and she gave me, she gave me all these young, books to read, which took a hold on my imagination. And I felt that this was my genre, because I felt that no matter what happened in those books, ultimately everything, turns out well. And I felt that was a very strong motivational message that goes out through the writing, that mystery writing is where you can play around, like reality, things are happening, but you don't necessarily have to face the wrath of those, of those conflicts, and everything happens well in the end. So there is the message that don't worry, your life may go up and down, things may happen, incidents may happen, but ultimately all's well that ends well. And I felt that is what really appealed to me in the mystery genre, apart from the excitement, all that, and sucking the reader into solving something along with you, the challenge of getting the reader involved in your work and believing in your characters, believing in the situation, trying to solve the mystery. All that was very heady for me, and I think it kind of gives me a real high when I write those books, and when a reader likes it. But I've also written in other genres. For example, I romance is also an integral part of all my books, because I think it's the universal language. And no matter which country where you base your books, whether it's India or US or wherever, romance is very integral to our lives, and we can't separate love from our lives. So love and peace are the two messages I give continuously through all my books. So my first book, 94, was a romantic suspense. Since then, I've been having romantic suspense. In fact, all the destination thrillers also have romance in them. In fact, the mystery of the Portuguese hearts has romance at the center of it. I don't know if you've read the book, but it's like a 40-year-old saga which unfolds in Portugal, and Ray has to solve the mystery of their love to lead to a certain conclusion. So romance plays a very important role in my life. I've written science fiction. I wrote, it's like a futuristic alternate reality called The Revolt of the Lame Brain, where something happens way ahead in the future, and it's the first book in a trilogy. And it's the Superdome Chronicles, where anyway, it's I won't go into details of the book, but it's like a book which has a new language in it. I've created new words in it. I've created a world which is totally fantastic, but not very technologically advanced, but not away from this world. So it's not fantasy, it is science fiction, but very, very much connected and grounded in our world. So I've written that. I've written non-fiction books, like I've written The Doctrine of Peace, where I believe that world peace can be achieved by adopting dogs. So I've written a book on films. One of my PhD thesis was turned into films. So I've written for children, mystery, and introducing spiritual messages for children in Mithu, the Magical Kitten. So I've handled all genres. But ultimately, all said and done, I do believe that I think my genre is mystery genre.
Yes, I think it also takes a while for a writer to really find their voice, to really find their comfort, their home, so to say,
Yeah.
when it comes to writing. So I'm very glad that in these years of writing, I'm sure it has taken a lot of effort, a lot of time, a lot of your energy to do
Yeah.
this for so many years. And I think I heard somewhere that you cannot write more than 20 bad books. So if you have written more than 20,
Oh God, really? Did you hear that? So I'm past that real critical figure number. Lovely.
so when you
There's
said at
hope.
the beginning of
There's
the
hope for me.
that you have written 23 books, I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
you have passed the threshold of
Oh, that's
writing.
nice.
So it really,
Interesting.
I think, opens up, and if you practice or if you can kind of dabble with so many different genres, and if you have written so many books, so many words have come out of you, things must be really, really close and meaningful for you and the readers. So just to end this conversation, I would really like to ask you. I know you must be, I don't know, in your late 40s, early 50s, but we see, so am I. So, but we see like this whole new mad world, So earlier in the previous decade, it was all about, are people reading books? Are people are so much into screen? And, there's so less attention span, blah, blah, blah. But now things are getting even more concerning. So it's like, are people even writing? So, and what they're writing, is it their own, or is there somebody else writing for it? So
I
I,
agree.
I really fear that future sometimes, because I feel that the voice, that unique voice that makes you, uh, could be something that is now slowly getting outsourced. I don't know. So, what's your view on how AI, ChatGPT is shaping up, and I think we also spoke about this a little before, like how people are either openly or secretly using it. So,
I think,
how it's becoming part
you
of
know,
your life, and how do you see it? Like, even if it is not becoming part of your life, how do you see it? Because you can't
no,
be
no, it's
away from
becoming a
it.
part of my life in more ways that I can imagine. I'll give you a simple thing. Now, when somebody asks for, request for a copy of the book to review it, and then they send me the review, it's even the names of the characters in the book are not the right names, and I can immediately make out that this is an AI driven review, because it's a generic review, so that can apply to any book under the world. But what is a giveaway is the names of the characters. Some weird character names in the book, and I know instantly that this is not your review, it's an AI review. And I'm so startled that people are actually using AI to write reviews of books, to write their books now. And it is, I wouldn't say it's scary, but it is disturbing, because there are people who are actually putting, sitting down and writing for months and end to bring out, or we've done it all our lives to do it. And, with the snap of your fingers, you can bring out a novel or an article or anything. And it is not necessarily good. I'm not saying that it's good, because it lacks the emotional depth and it lacks the connect to what you're writing. But people are going to be using it freely, and are going to put it out there as theirs. And that is what is disturbing, and I don't know how this is ever going to be checked, because this is a growing trend and AI is here to stay, and we have to live with it. And it only means that mediocrity is now going to be uh, totally flashed across the world, and the few really hardworking ones, because see, this is the growing generation now.
It's a
To
shortcut, no?
this,
Shortcut. This is like a good
sorry,
shortcut.
sorry.
It gives you a shortcut to
It's a
like.
shortcut, but imagine this in the hands of people who are aspiring, or to want to make themselves into something. For them is the easiest route now,
And then
and
you
that is
invest so
disturbing.
much. Then you don't invest so much time and effort in the
Nothing.
real
You don't do
craft.
anything. There is no effort. There is no teaching. There is no learning. It's just going to be automatic now, and that is where creativity can be at risk if you don't apply your conscience to what you're doing. And I think AI, henceforth, moving forward, is going to play a huge role in our lives. It's up to human beings and the human brain to decipher what is good for them from, and how to use it to the best of your ability, without compromising on your capability, on your conscience. I think that is the biggest challenge now, which the new generations are going to face. The older ones like me will manage and will plod on, due to our, let's say, the way we are used to working in this style. But somebody who's handled with an AI tool at the beginning of their career, this is like a zip zap zoom into space for them, and it's tougher for them now to hold back. I think that is what's going to happen.
I think then a lot of people will just sound similar. No, it's like if,
Not just it's
because
you
sometimes I also can make it out from a lot of posts
you
that
yeah,
this
yeah.
AI written because they are all sounding
Yes,
similar. Well, some of the LinkedIn,
yes,
they're all sounding similar. The sentence construction is also
right.
similar, and things do come to you if you are a discerning reader at some point. And I hope
Yes.
that persists and people uh, get to choose between what the extent to which they make it part of their lives, right? So
No,
that
it's going to be tough. The thing is that now today, when I read a good piece of writing, my first question is, did you write this or is it through AI?
yeah.
I mean, earlier I would have never even thought of it, but now I know that you need to ask these questions now. So I do some mentorship, and I have 13, 14-year-olds, and also authors. And my first question is,
Did
tell
you?
me if this you use the AI to write this, because then only I can analyze the way
Yeah,
you've written and stuff like that. It's very simple. If it's by AI, I don't need to even go down that lane.
absolutely.
So it's here to stay. We need to learn how to use it, and it's a human brain is far superior to any AI, I would feel, and also the emotions and the heart. So a good combination and a balance of the heart and the head is extremely important while using AI.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Manjari, for giving us the time. I'm sure this was like long pending, and I'm so glad that we could make this time and we could talk about it. I wish you all the best for your book and for the
Thank you.
upcoming books. I'm sure you're going to write many more.
Now that I've crossed the 20 mark, I hope I do. Let's
Yes,
see.
absolutely.
Up to
And
God and the muse to keep using me like a channel, and I'm all ready to do it.
yes, yes. No, after 20 books, I don't think you have to wait for the muse. It will just
Okay.
it will just
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah.
wish you all the
Bye.
best, Manjari. Thank you so much for
Thank you.
joining.
Thank you, Priyanka. Bye.